Hey guys, real quick, full disclosure, chronologically speaking, this should be episode 6, but because of the topics we discussed in this episode, and because the audio ended up being a little bit worse than we expected, we decided it would make just a bit more sense to put this at episode 3, and that's why it's in the spot it currently is. Okay, thank you so much. Enjoy the episode.
Hello and welcome to the Mandatory Topic X podcast. My name is Tim Trin, and sitting beside me is the illustrious
Yo boy, Ken Davis.
Today we'll be talking about Black Magic M66 and the anime Gunsmith Cats.
You sound so professional.
I am professional, Kendall. I take everything seriously.
Okay. Be sure to visit our website, mandatorytopic.com, iTunes, Facebook, email.
Please send us some emails. We would love to cover something that you would like us to cover. No My Little Pony, though. We're not doing that.
Yeah, I do refuse to cover My Little Pony. I really don't understand that show.
I thought that the appeal was just to be ironic at first, but
I don't think that was ever the appeal.
I thought that was just the original thing, and then people just took it and went way too far.
So I guess, to get started with the show, has there been anything you've been listening to, watching, consuming, any media, entertainment, yada yada yada?
To really be honest, no. I've been so busy recently, it's kind of ridiculous, but I really hope to get to reading some Plato. I've been reading it, I've been trying to get started on it, and every time I get started, I get halfway through the first chapter, and then I fall asleep. But it's probably due to the fact that I'm reading it in bed.
Which one are you reading?
It's the story where Socrates, he goes up to the temple, and he's talking to this guy about piety.
You haven't gotten through the Euphratoe? Euphratoe's 20 pages, are you kidding me?
Okay, but look.
No, you've been reading that for 3 years. I gave you that book 3 years ago.
I haven't been reading it for 3 years. I only just recently started.
Okay, at least a month and a half ago, I saw you carrying it around, outside of your house.
Because my intent was to read it, and I was trying to, force myself to do it.
It's 20 pages. It's 20 pages, and it's solid, interesting material. It doesn't take, a long time to get ramped up, whatever.
Look, you underestimate my attention span.
That's embarrassing on your part. That's all I'm saying.
I said, I already qualified this by saying, not great. I'm not a great reader. Although back in the day, I did get good scores on that little school thing, which always made me feel good. Yeah, it always made me feel good. I was like, yeah! But then everybody else got, above average scores, and I was like, you know what, maybe this isn't...
Yeah, I remember that too. On our, standardized test, everyone would get above average scores in, reading. And I was like, what does above average mean, then, if everyone is above average?
Yeah, it was a little discouraging. I don't know. But anyway, I haven't been consuming anything else. Well, I guess I've had Dragon Ball Abridged on a lot in the background, which has been pretty good.
That's good. I was surprised that we didn't bring that up when we were talking about the new Dragon Ball Z movie. You kind of, alluded to it. You said it was similar.
Yeah, it felt like a parody or something like that.
Yeah.
But I had to give up on Dragon Ball Abridged for a while. I used to just sort of watch it a lot, but it started to feel like the jokes weren't funny anymore, so I had to take a break. But coming back, I gotta tell you, listeners, it's pretty good. I like it.
I thought it was always funny.
I guess I just got tired of it, but I think it's actually gotten better in these recent months. I really like I don't know, I didn't watch the actual anime when the androids were around, so I don't know if their personalities were really like that, but I like their attitudes in the Abridged series.
No, that's what they were like. You didn't make it through, you didn't, watch all of Dragon Ball Z?
No.
Really?
I, barely watched any of Dragon Ball Z as a kid.
Huh.
Kendall, I think we've discussed this.
Okay, I thought you saw it, but you just didn't like it that much. I thought you were kind of reluctantly watching it. I didn't even understand that you, didn't watch it.
No, I just wasn't that interested in it. I just kind of skipped over it. I mean, I'd catch it sometimes, but they'd always be these random things. I wasn't following the story.
That's weird. Well, I guess Dragon Ball Abridged is serving its purpose for you.
Yeah, and plus, jokes.
They actually do keep, the mood of the show.
Yeah, they do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
It seems to me. It seems like it's an actual narrative and not just a bunch of jokes.
Unlike Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, which gave up on the narrative pretty darn early.
Well, there wasn't that much meat to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Story anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's been updating recently, but he took a year or two off.
Little Karibo?
Yeah. And it was disappointing for me because I was like, man, this used to be my favorite thing.
Whatever. He's making his living traveling to cons, so good on him.
I wonder how much money you can make doing that if you're a little Karibo.
Probably a good bit. He seems to have a pretty full schedule every time I visit his website. He makes a lot more I'm going to this con videos than actual Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged videos.
That's the problem, though. Every time I go to his website, it's not like a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, and I'm like, son of a... Ah!
I mean, at this point, Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged kind of sucks, but...
Yeah, but he needs to get back into it, man. It was good back in the day.
Those first few episodes were good. I'll give you that. I understand how stupidly hipster all of that sounds.
My nostalgia... Well, not even just the first two. Like, it ran up...
First few.
I liked it all the way up till, like, when they were...
Like the Pegasus. Yeah, after, like, the Pegasus arc.
I don't know.
They kind of stopped, like,
when
doing
they started
narratives.
the Battle City stuff.
Yeah, it got
That's when
silly.
it got a little lame. But before then, it was all good.
Yeah. So what have I been watching? I've been watching Season 3 of The Legend of Korra. Really, really good. I know a lot of people didn't like Season 2, and a lot of people are idiots, because Season 2 was great, Season 1 was great, except for the last 3 minutes, but otherwise it was great. And Season 3 is probably even better than all of those, so if you haven't watched the Avatar series in general, you should definitely check all of those out immediately, because they're really, really good, and I like them a lot. Have you started Season 3?
We started it, but I haven't gone past, like, the first 3 episodes. I don't even remember what was going on.
You weren't paying attention?
I mean, I was. I have the memory of an old man.
The show hasn't been going on for that long. Season 3 hasn't been going on
Okay,
for that long.
but you underestimate. It's probably like I need to go see a neurologist or something. But to put that aside, seriously, if you've not seen The Last Airbender, just stop listening to this and go watch it.
I would concur with that. It's an excellent show. It's so good. You can skip Season 1, though. Watch, like, 2.
Don't skip
Season 1 is overrated.
What?
Season 1 is definitely overrated. Watch the first episode of Season 1, then watch 2 random episodes, and you're gonna understand, like, the narrative of every episode. It's just Zuko chasing the Avatar, blah, blah, blah. The animation's really bad, the comedic timing's really bad. I don't understand why people defend Season 1. It's actually kind of a bad show in Season 1. Start Season 2. The beginning of Season 2 is also pretty weak, honestly, but if you can make it to the halfway point, about when Toph is introduced, it seems like their animation budget gets arbitrarily raised, and the quality of animation's a lot better, the comedic timing becomes a lot better, and the second half of Season 2 is a really good show, and then, like, all of Season 3 is fantastic.
Just ignore Kendall. That's a ridiculous opinion. Watch all of it in order, because that's how real men and women do it.
If you start watching it all in order, you're going to be bored, and then as soon as you realize that, hey, I'm kind of bored of this show, remember what I said, and then be like, oh, okay, I'll just skip to Season 2 and give that a chance. And then you'll like it, and you'll be glad you listened to me.
That's going to apply to very few people, Kendall. You get bored too easily.
That show, Season 1's not good, but whatever. So I've been watching Season 3 of Korra. Very good. Almost at an end. Only 13 episodes coming out, and I think we're on episode 10 right now. They actually, I guess the ratings on Nickelodeon weren't that good or something, and so Nick took it off air, and it's just airing online now.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, a lot of people were really upset about that. I would have been upset because that would imply that we're not getting a Season 4, but Season 4 is already in the middle of production, so it doesn't matter.
Then it just stops, just because you said that, Kendall.
That would be a waste of so much money if they stopped. Like, it'd just be a
They're
waste
just trying
of
to make you angry.
millions of dollars on their part.
Yeah, noting the Transformers reaction you had. You're just like, yeah.
Hey, it's not the same people.
It doesn't matter. You were raving about wasting money.
Okay.
That's weird, though. Why would they... Well,
Okay.
I guess kids don't like Avatar anymore?
So, pretty much everything on Nickelodeon gets far lower ratings than reruns of SpongeBob. So that's pretty much like the basis they use for what are we going to put on air? Reruns of SpongeBob and get 3 million viewers, or an original show like Avatar or pretty much anything else and get significantly less than that. I don't know why SpongeBob is that popular, but that's the case. So I'm pretty sure in its time slot it's been replaced with reruns of SpongeBob.
That's weird. Is it playing in a different time slot?
No, it doesn't play on Nickelodeon anymore. They only show it online now. As of, like, a few weeks ago. Like, this started, like, 6 weeks into the new season or something.
Man, shame on you, Nickelodeon. Actually, I guess I can't really blame them. I mean, that's how TV works, but whatever.
Yeah, it is how it works. Well, there's a lot of complaint that they weren't advertising it appropriately. Like, they only announced that it was going to be airing a week before it started airing, and then they still wouldn't advertise for it, and it was only airing every other week. So there was, I guess, a lot of at least semi-legitimate complaints that, well, of course it wasn't getting good ratings, you didn't give it a shot at having good ratings.
Yeah, that's weird. I would have thought that, I mean, it's a relatively... I don't know if it's actually that popular. I guess it seems popular to me because we're the people who watch it. We're not kids anymore, Kendall.
Being old sucks.
It does suck. Only getting closer to your death.
Okay, I don't want to think about that. So I've also been watching the new season of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the show Stardust Crusaders. That's been coming out every week. I've really been enjoying that. It's really, really funny. I don't know how many people I can recommend it to, but man, is that show fun to watch. So I read the first part of the manga, the second part of the manga, the Stardust Crusaders thing, which is currently airing, is the animation of the third part of the manga. And so while I'm watching that, I also started on the fourth part of the manga, and I read all the way through that. And that was probably my favorite part. Honestly, it was really good. The main character of that part has like this swagger I just kind of like, and then all of the side characters are really funny. It's just kind of like a slice of life. It's just about life in this town, and the threat isn't this world-ending thing. And it's just like this serial killer that's like the main villain. And so the stakes are so much lower, but the villain was such a good character. He was really intriguing. Everything about that was just really fun. I liked it. And like my favorite chapter was when two of the main characters, they were gambling against each other, because even though they were both good guys, they hated each other, but they were using like their powers to try and cheat against each other. And it was so much fun. I don't know. I haven't just relaxed and enjoyed reading a manga that much in a long time. So I would highly recommend JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4. I'd recommend all of it, but I think Part 4 has been my favorite so far. And then I started on Part 5, and that's been pretty disappointing so far, but I haven't gotten that far into it.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch that. You know, the people who cosplay JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, it's like a thing to, they have to mimic the outrageous poses.
That's impossible. You can't contort your body in that way in real life.
But they really try. And you should look up some pictures of it, because it's really fabulous. Like, that's one of the things I really like about that guy's artwork, is just his characters are all so weird.
Yeah, his art gets a lot better in Part 4. Well, maybe not better. I know some people prefer the art in the first 3 parts, but the art in the first 3 parts is very reminiscent of, like, Fist of the North Star to me. And in Part 4, it gets the cleaner look that he's more notable for. His name is Araki. I don't remember his first name.
Alright, that's cool.
Okay, so now that we're done with that, I guess we can move on to Black Magic M66. Black Magic M66 is a 1987 OVA based on the Black Magic manga. The manga came out in 1983 and was created by Shiro Masamune. Masamune also created the Ghost in the Shell manga, which I think came out in like 1990, 1991, as well as Appleseed. Appleseed, it's a pretty big franchise, has a couple OVAs, I think at least 3 movies, and a show as well, if I remember correctly. Masamune also did the manga for Dominion Tank Police, which was a pretty popular set of OVAs in the late 80s, early 90s, and hopefully we'll get around to talking about those in the future. Masamune, as far as I'm aware, didn't really have any involvement in the production of the Ghost in the Shell movies. I think that was all Mamoru Oshii, but he was very involved in the show as far as I can recall. But even though he didn't direct the Ghost in the Shell movies, he was very involved in directing the Black Magic M66 OVA because he was a director. He co-directed this alongside Hiroyuki Kitakubo. Now, Kitakubo has done work on quite a few things. He directed the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure OVAs. He directed Golden Boy. He directed Robot Carnival. And he's just done a lot of perhaps smaller parts and a bunch of other stuff. He did some key animation for Akira, and he did key animation for FLCL, and the list of his roles in the anime industry just goes on and on and on and on. So Masamune and Kitakubo directed this one-shot OVA, and it was loosely based on a couple of chapters of the manga Black Magic by Masamune. The manga, by the way, was published by Dark Horse in America, if you want to try and check it out. And this thing was animated by AIC and Animate. It's just a 48-minute long thing, and okay, here's the story. So this thing is basically an anime of the Terminator, It's really pretty much the exact same thing if you've seen The Terminator, and I guess who hasn't. So there are like these robots that have been developed by the military, and then there's like a plane crash due to some spy intrigue stuff that's not really gone into all that much. And the robots get freed, and they're running on like their default programming, and their default programming is to try and kill the daughter of the roboticist who made them, because that was just the test program he was using. He didn't expect it to ever be activated. So the robots are going after this innocent girl, and our hero is this reporter. It's really weird that she's the hero, because she doesn't really have any qualifications to be a hero. She's just a random reporter who happens to be in pretty good shape, but she gets involved in this because she's got to get that story, and she ends up saving the day, kind of. Well, she ends up saving the girl that's trying to be killed anyway. It's a pretty not sophisticated plot, and it really is identical to The Terminator, but I enjoyed watching it. It wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but it definitely kept my attention. The art was good. The art was really detailed. Like a lot of anime in the 80s, and this is just a problem I have, but I don't like when things fall slowly, and everything fell very slowly in this. The art was very detailed. They drew machines very well. I didn't really care for the character designs of the robots themselves. Too much like dolls, I guess. They look very doll-like would be probably why I found them off-putting.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to develop a killer robot, it just, from a design perspective, making it a humanoid type thing would probably not exactly be the most efficient way to do it,
Yeah, I mean, that's stupid, but that's just something you have to give these things.
I don't know. That's a weird, nitpick. I've never heard of people having a problem with things falling slowly.
Well, I brought that up when we were talking about Space Adventure Cobra. Like, anytime he jumps, his falling is very slow. I think that's just something about animation, Japanese animation in the 80s that seems to be a common thing.
I just didn't catch that was your problem with it.
I mean, that wasn't my central problem. I'm just saying that is something I picked up on here. Well, and I picked up on that in other 80s anime as well.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I like, especially older stuff, like mechanical types of drawings. I like the older styles. I think that they have a certain appeal. Maybe it's the nostalgia factor. As a kid, watching, I guess, mecha anime a little bit, I just have a preference for those kinds of old styles. And also, old anime in general, I really like the look of it. The style is different.
I really think the cell animation really accounts for the majority of it.
I don't know. I mean, you can't compare, Riding Bean characters, or even Gunsmith Cats characters. You can't compare those to, they're just different, you know what I mean?
I mean, okay, so you're alluding to the fact that general character design trends in the 80s and the 90s were different than they were today, which is true.
Yeah, but
I don't think that's...
I like the older ones.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I don't think that's even responsible for the majority of the difference in the way the animation looks. I understand that you feel that way. I also kind of feel that way. In fact, I probably more than kind of feel that way. I definitely agree with you. Those character designs tend to look better than the more contemporary ones. But even given that, I think the main reason that the older animation tends to look better to us is because the cell shaded animation technique just is a better way to go about it. I don't like this digital stuff. Which isn't to say that you can often hear me complaining about the integration of CG and
the irony.
Yeah, the integration of CG and regular animation. So I don't mean to sound like some old man animation purist, but I really do think it just looked better.
Back in my day, we watched anime on rocks, and we liked it. Alright, so I guess to give my perspective, I liked it. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to the story, really, as Kendall said. It's just kind of you got these evil robots. They're, murdering all these people.
They have, slow-moving robot syndrome. Did you notice how slowly they would move? They said in the, near the beginning that they could move as fast as, a truck. So I was thinking they were going to be running at, 40 to 50 miles per hour, like the Terminator could. And just like the Terminator, when he gets close and should be using that super speed, he just doesn't. And instead, he starts moving slow, and he's always just 2 feet behind.
Well, yeah, that problem is more of a big deal in, the end of the thing, where the robot's chasing her, the reporter lady and the scientist's daughter.
Yeah.
And she's just, walking casually. Another problem with that is that, you saw earlier in the anime where she was, using her laser, or rather the robots were using, laser beams to, cut people up and stuff. And there are like a million chances toward the end of the anime where the robot could have very easily just murdered those two by using that ranged attack, and yet it didn't.
Yeah, so when the robots first show up, they're definitely fighting, or they seem to be fighting pretty darn efficiently, and they're just killing everything as fast as they can. But then once it comes time to like kill the main target and the main character, they just become dumb, and that's a pretty standard action movie type thing to do, but it's annoying. I don't like that.
It didn't bother me that much.
It makes it incredibly difficult to retain tension.
Yeah, it would have definitely been more gripping if the robots had actually been a real threat and not been acting dumb.
Well, they were a real threat at first.
Yeah, but then they're just like walking around, not using their laser beams or anything like that. Like, come on, they're clearly being dumbed down.
Yeah.
But, whatever. That aside, I like the scenes with the anime fights, or rather with the robot fights. I thought those were really good. I just overall like the style of this thing. It's a good little short OVA if you have something you want to watch, or if you have time and you want to watch a good little short OVA.
I really liked the main character's character design. I like blue-haired characters in general, but I don't know. It really struck me that she was just like some reporter. It was just the weirdest thing, because you always expect action movie heroes to be, I guess not always. I can think of like Big Trouble in Little Tokyo, where the hero, that's kind of a parody though, but in that movie, like the hero in quotation marks, he's just a truck driver who can fight really well for whatever reason. But normally it's going to be like a policeman or something like that, but she's just a reporter, and as far as we can tell, she can't even fight all that well. We just know she's in pretty good shape.
I mean, she was just trying to stay alive and be a good person, basically, through the whole thing. She wasn't even fighting.
Yeah.
She was just running away from the robots. But that's another good thing, I guess, about this thing, is that, it's not as cliche. You got an interesting sort of deviation there. I
really like the scene when they're in the elevator and they have that magnet that repels the robot, and for 2 minutes they're just walking around the elevator as the robot has to walk on the opposite side of the magnet.
Yeah. So I guess in conclusion, decent OVA. Watch it if you want to.
This works as a standalone thing. You don't have to be familiar with any previous material that it may have possibly been based on. And it's only 49 minutes long, an OVA. Not a large investment. This is worth checking out. So I guess we can move on to Gunsmith Cats. Gunsmith Cats is a 3-episode long OVA, first released in 1995, and it ended in 1996. The original manga was created by Kenichi Sonoda. It was 8 volumes long, and it ran from 1991 to 1997. Kenichi Sonoda is a very important guy in anime history. He was very important in terms of character designs in the 90s or even the late 80s. He did the character designs for Bubblegum Crisis and Otaku no Video. Gunsmith Cats is a sequel to Riding Bean, which we talked about previously. Riley Vincent is the main character in Gunsmith Cats, and she was the secondary protagonist in Riding Bean, though her character design has been changed significantly, but we'll talk about that later. The OVAs were directed by Takashi Mori. Takashi Mori has been involved in a bunch of stuff over the years. He was the director for Otaku no Video. He also directed Giant Robot and Van Dread, as well as maybe a couple of other things. He's been involved in the production side of things for just a tremendous number of shows. He did the storyboards for Kimagure Orange Road, for Rurouni Kenshin, for Eureka 7, Rosie Opla's Vampire, even a good number of contemporary things. His career is still pretty active. The OVAs were animated by Oriental Light and Magic. The OVAs were released by ADV in America, if you're interested in checking those out. And the manga, similar to Black Magic, was released by Dark Horse in the United States. So
this is sort of I guess it is a direct sequel to Riding Bean, which we have discussed in an earlier review. It's about these two girls who run a gun shop, hence Gunsmith. We got Rally, which is sort of our main character, and I forget the other girl's name.
Minnie May Hopkins.
At any rate, yeah, they're both kind of cute. But anyways, moving on. How do I sum it up?
Kenichi Sonoda character designs, Kenichi Sonoda sensibilities, Kenichi Sonoda's version of America. This thing is awesome.
That was interesting. It's in America.
As was Riding Bean, because Raleigh Vincent, if you've seen Riding Bean, then you will recall that Raleigh Vincent was also in Riding Bean. She was Bean Bandit's assistant. For this, because of legal reasons that Kenichi Sonoda was dealing with, he had to make her a slightly different character, so I don't know if this can really be called a direct sequel to Riding Bean. There's really nothing linking it to Riding Bean other than the fact that Raleigh Vincent is in both. No mention of previous events ever occur that I'm aware of.
Apparently, in the manga or something like that, some of the other characters from Riding Bean, like the obsessed cop guy, make an appearance.
Yeah,
and there is mention to the main character of Riding Bean. So.
Yeah, I know Bean Bandit shows up in the manga for Gunsmith Cats, but I don't know. He definitely doesn't show up in this OVA.
Yeah, well, it's short. It's only 3 episodes long.
Right. So in this OVA, Raleigh Vincent has been changed to a half Indian woman, so she has like tan skin, and in Riding Bean she had blonde hair, and here she has black hair. So I guess that was able to free Kenichi Sonoda from his legal obligations or whatever. It really seems like a cheap trick, but I guess it worked for him. Yeah, I don't know how that worked out. There was supposed to be more Riding Bean, as we mentioned when we were talking about that show, but it was because of like legal problems or something along those lines that didn't work out, which is unfortunate because Riding Bean, as I've said many, many times before, and as I will continue to say, was freaking awesome, as was this. This was not as good as Riding Bean, mind you, but it was a really, really good show. Kenichi Sonoda just has really good sensibilities, man. I like his version of America. I like his like take on 80s action movies, and he does the exact same thing. He does a standard, generic 80s action show, action cop movies, but he does it as an anime with like some anime sensibilities, and it just looks really nice. So I actually had a hard time kind of following the story. So the general plot is that Raleigh Vincent and Minnie May, they own a gun shop called Gunsmith Cats, and they also work as bounty hunters. So one day the ATF, one day, a person from the ATF comes up to them. His name was Bill, and he says, "Hey, we know that you don't have a permission to have all of these illegal guns that you have, and you don't have permission to have all of these illegal explosives that you have, so we're giving you an ultimatum. You can either be arrested or fined." They don't really specify what the punishment would be for breaking the law, "or you can help us bust this gun smuggling ring." And they're like, well, we don't really have a choice now, do we? Raleigh is really good with guns. She's supposed to be 19, I think, but she's like some expert fighter for reasons that aren't really explained, because this is only 3 episodes long, and Minnie May is like an expert with explosives. She uses bombs all the time, though those bombs really are dramatically underpowered. People like get hit with those bombs like head on, and they have like a 1st-degree burn, and they get knocked out. It doesn't really make any sense. So they have this ultimatum, and they decide to help. And so it's just their like adventurers trying to bust this ring, and there's a lot of corruption and political intrigue. And when I say a lot, I mean a moderate amount, as they find out that some people in the AFT aren't as trustworthy as they may first seem. It's just good old fun.
ATF.
Raleigh drives like this Shelby Cobra GT 500, kind of like in Riding Bean. There's a lot of details given to the cars and the guns. Apparently they use like the actual sound effects for all the objects. Like if they were using a particular type of gun, not only did they draw it as accurately as they could, but they'd also like fire the gun and use that as a sound effect. And they used, for the car she was driving, they actually used sound effects from the Shelby Cobra GT 500, which I thought is like an excellent attention to detail type of thing. And you can see that in the art. Chicago is rendered very well. They did an art scouting location trip to Chicago to make sure that they were able to get the drawings of everything correct. Apparently, the house they lived in was also based on like a real house they just saw in some subdivision. Like a lot of work clearly went into this, and it shows. Everything is very well animated. I think Riding Bean still probably had slightly higher production values. I just think Riding Bean is the best thing that's ever existed. So nothing's ever going to compare to that to me. But I really did enjoy this so much. The background music was really nice, very 80s, a lot of like synth kind of stuff. Again, if you watched any 80s action movie, then you're familiar with all of this. This thing doesn't have anything new for you. This thing is just so American 80s that it hurts. But it's so novel to see this done through like an anime lens. For writing being, they got Phil Perry, which was really cool. And he does an excellent job with that soundtrack, and he was being helped with some other dude. But the point I'm making is they are both American dudes, and they got this other Western dude who was from a pretty major Western band to do the music for this one. And it just feels right. Everything about this show, even though it's so clearly Japanese and so clearly anime, it just feels American to me. It's good.
And you look like you're so comfortable.
Looking back on when we were talking about Writing Bean, I'm really not sure if I conveyed how much I liked Writing Bean. And so I want to make it clear by talking to this Writing Bean successor, talking about this Writing Bean successor, that both of these properties are absolutely fantastic to me. These are the type of things that you should show people who are skeptical about anime if they're just like trying to get into it. Like if I was showing someone who was like, show me an anime. You got one shot to impress me with anime. I'd probably show them Writing Bean. This is another thing I would consider.
Let me be clear.
Obama have one chance to impress Barack Obama with anime.
Alright, so we're rolling out this new anime policy. Obama, our country is burning! I don't care about that. I only care about Japan now.
We're going to spend $1 trillion on a new season of Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann.
We're out of money! You're all slaves.
I meant to bring this up with Black Magic M66. Well, it wasn't that big of a deal for Black Magic M66, and it wasn't a big deal here, but there was a lot of unnecessary fan service at least once or twice every episode. They'd like find an excuse to get Rally out of her clothes. But what I found interesting was normally that stuff makes me roll my eyes and I'm really frustrated with it, but here it was just like, it felt so harmless, I guess because Rally and Minnie weren't worthless characters. Whereas normally it's like the girl getting naked because that's pretty much all she's good for in the story. Similar to kind of how I felt with Kill la Kill. It's unnecessary and I wish it wasn't there, but it wasn't as problematic as I would have found it with virtually any other show because these characters are treated well.
I don't really remember. I mean, I remember like one fan service bit from Gunsmith Cats. I expected more though. It was very business. Or maybe it just felt that way because they stuck to it. I don't know. There's
at least one fan service thing every episode.
Well, there was
when she's saving Bill and her clothes get like torn off by that thing. It was completely unnecessary.
Oh,
and she ends up like in a gunfight with her, like in her bra and panties. And it was completely unnecessary, but even then I didn't like mine.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have minded it anyway. But
and then there are a lot of shots of them just like sitting around at home at night in their like underwear.
Okay, fair enough. I guess I didn't really think about it as fan service. It's not very overt.
Yeah, it's not. This isn't an ecchi by any means, but it's there. But it's not problematic, and that's why I brought it up to explicitly say, even though it's there, I was surprised by how like unproblematic it was done. If you could say tastefully done, then maybe that would be a word I would choose to use. I wouldn't go that far, but.
Well, considering how much work they put into this thing, I mean, you know, maybe that would be appropriate.
Also, the main villain, I guess the main villain that they actually, like, physically fight is female, so. Radinoff, Natasha Radinoff, the most generic Russian female name they could come up with.
Huh. What, did you have a problem with that, Kennedy?
I like all of these generic naming conventions. I really enjoyed George Black.
Yeah, you know what? This whole entire episode has been like one giant Kindle meme because all of our main characters are like strong female characters. And even the enemy.
Yeah, it was pretty great. But I don't really have anything else to say about this. I guess we're done here.
You can stop listening now.
Signing off.